If you are reading this, you've stumbled upon a story that refuses to let go of your mind once you begin. So before we dive in, hit subscribe and stay connected, because what you're about to experience is not just a story, it's a labyrinth of secrets, betrayals, and impossible choices that could change the way you see trust forever. And it begins with a single truth. Nothing is ever what it seems, for when Daniel woke up in that narrow apartment with the rain slashing against the cracked windows, he thought it would be just another day of survival in a city that swallowed the week whole. But what he didn't know was that the envelope on his table, unmarked and sealed with wax, would drag him into a chain of events that would blur the lines between reality and illusion, forcing him to question every face he saw, including his own reflection. Inside the envelope was a single sheet of paper with 3 words written in a hurried scrawl. Don't trust her. But no name, no signature, no context, just that warning. And as Daniel stared at the message, he thought of the only her that mattered in his life. Elena. The woman who had entered his world 6 months earlier like a quiet storm, with eyes that seemed to hold galaxies and a smile that disarmed his defenses. A woman he loved but also feared in ways he couldn't explain, for she always seemed to know things she shouldn't, to appear where she wasn't expected, and to vanish when questions grew too heavy. He wanted to dismiss the note as a prank, maybe even a cruel trick, but before he could decide, the knock came at his door, soft, deliberate, and too perfectly timed. And when he opened it, Elena stood there drenched from the rain, holding a bag in one hand and an unreadable expression on her face, saying only, "Daniel, we need to leave. Now." And without waiting for his reply, she pushed past him, her urgency slicing through the air, and as he demanded answers, she whispered something that turned his blood cold. "They found us." Daniel didn't know who they were, but the fear in her eyes was real, and even as his instincts told him to confront her, to demand the truth, something deeper told him to follow. So he did, out into the rain, down the crooked stairwell, and into the waiting night where a black car idled with its lights off. And before he could protest, she shoved him inside, slammed the door, and the vehicle surged forward, driven by a silent man whose face Daniel couldn't see in the shadows, but whose presence radiated danger. And that's when Daniel realized he wasn't in control of his own story anymore, that he had been pulled into something far larger than himself. As the city blurred by, Elena began explaining in fragments: stolen files, hidden experiments, a betrayal buried years ago, and a shadow organization that wanted what Daniel unknowingly carried. But every word only deepened the fog of confusion, and when he tried to ask why him, why she needed him, she just looked at him with an ache in her voice. "Because you're the only one I can trust," which would have comforted him if not for the echo of that note still burning in his pocket. Don't trust her. The car stopped in an abandoned warehouse district where the driver finally spoke, his voice gravelly and sharp. "We don't have much time, they're already closing in." And Daniel, still clutching the note in his pocket, wondered who was lying to him. Elena, the driver, or maybe both. Inside the warehouse, dim light revealed stacks of crates, maps pinned to walls, and photographs of people Daniel had never seen before, except one. His own face staring back from a grainy surveillance photo dated 2 years before he had even met Elena, and panic thundered in his chest because how could they have been watching him before any of this even began? And that's when Elena admitted the truth he wasn't ready for. "You were part of this long before you met me, Daniel. You just don't remember." Confusion gave way to terror as Daniel demanded answers, but before she could explain, the sound of boots storming outside shattered the moment, and men in black tactical gear burst in, guns raised, shouting commands, and in the chaos Elena grabbed his hand and pulled him into the maze of crates, bullets sparking against steel as they ran, until finally the driver sacrificed himself to hold off their pursuers, yelling for them to run as gunfire swallowed his voice. And Daniel, breathless, realized he was running blindly into a world he didn't understand, holding onto a woman he couldn't fully trust, while the note in his pocket seemed to grow heavier with every step. The chase led them underground, into tunnels beneath the city, where Elena finally confessed the impossible: that Daniel had once worked for the very organization now hunting them. That he had been their brightest mind, crafting technology that could rewrite memory, alter perception, and even fabricate entire histories, but that he had turned against them, erased his own mind, and vanished into a new identity to protect what he had discovered. A code hidden deep in his subconscious, the key to dismantling their control, and now they wanted it back, but he had no memory of it at all. only fragments surfacing as dreams and déjà vu. Daniel wanted to deny it, to scream that it couldn't be true, but flashes of buried memories struck him like lightning. Sterile labs, cold voices, Alina's face appearing not 6 months ago but years earlier, her whispering, "Trust me," in a place he couldn't place, and the realization tore at him. This wasn't the first time he had been here, this wasn't the first time she had saved him, and maybe not the first time she had betrayed him either. As they navigated deeper, hunted on all sides, Daniel's grip on reality began to crack, unable to tell whether Elena was truly on his side or if she was leading him straight back into the hands of his enemies, and the more she pleaded for trust, the more the words on that note echoed like a curse. But just when his doubts threatened to shatter their fragile alliance, Elena revealed one final twist that made everything collapse. She wasn't Elena at all, at least not in the way he thought, but rather a fragment of the system he had built, an echo of a woman he once loved who had died years before, reconstructed and sent to guide him back. Yet in defying her creators she had become something else, something almost human, and now she needed him as much as he needed her, because if he failed to unlock the code inside him, the world would fall under a control so complete that no one would ever know they had been enslaved, their memories rewritten, their lives reshaped, freedom erased forever. Daniel, torn between the ghost of love and the weight of humanity's survival, realized the note might not have been a warning but a test, one he would only pass by seeing beyond the words, beyond fear, and into choice. And as the final confrontation loomed, with shadows converging and the truth of his own past clawing to the surface, he understood that the only way forward was to decide, not who he could trust, but whether he could trust himself, and that choice, heavy and infinite, would decide not only his fate but the fate of everyone, everywhere.